And we're back. Hopefully you joined us last time. If you haven't, you should go back and join that other video conference and check it out because we had a blast. We're still having a blast here. My name's Jeff Bajorek, and I challenge people to rethink the way they sell. Amahl, who are you?
Amahl Williams, husband, father, thespian, gainfully unemployed marketer, retired sales rep.
Active winker.
I left the wink out. I went non-wink today. The wink is in the parenthetical. Next.
Shannon Peng, tell us about yourself.
My point. I'm Shannon Peng. I'm an enterprise marketer. I am a digital gladiator, self-proclaimed 2 years ago, and it's really come to life. And a data geek and a tech geek, and that's why I get along with these guys. And I'm actually a marketer turned salesperson, and why we all three get along.
There's a funny thing about self-proclamations that they tend to come true when you really believe them. So sometimes what it takes to be a thought leader, what it takes to be a leader of any kind, what it takes to be an expert is to stand up, raise your hand, and call yourself one. And then the rest seems to figure itself out. It's kind of spooky that way. But Shannon, what are we going to talk about on this episode?
Well, I was reading this article earlier on Twitter, and I don't have it up, but Amahl is one of the smartest people I know, and not because he's on here, but the thing that we actually first engaged on, right, this is a fun fact, is we had engaged on an article I'd written on the art of negotiation, and then like the next day he had, once we connected officially on LinkedIn, we made it LI official, he had this really awesome t-shirt posted that said, hashtag data is the new bacon. And I don't know about you guys, but everybody likes bacon, even people like me who do not eat pork bacon. I still love turkey bacon.
I ever tell you about the worst piece of bacon I ever had?
No.
It was delicious.
Exactly. So, this morning, I saw this, right? So we are now to a point where we're using, I've never seen this number. Maybe y'all have 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day.
It's a ridiculous number.
That's an unmanageable amount.
Yeah.
So data on top of data on top of data. So I'm going to share this. Let's see. I am not the best fan of white, but I am going to make it delightful. I want to share this, right? Databases and agility, key to digital transformation. I saw this Amahl earlier, and I just thought this had your name on it.
Oh yeah, you're speaking my language. And now I'm thinking about subject lines for our upcoming campaigns for the quarter after this. But the mantra, why the CEO created the brand. Well, several reasons, but one of the primary reasons. When I started here 3 years ago, I interviewed him, and I challenged him on not only defining the brand, but not confining the brand. So what created Plurus, right? One out of many, right? A single vision out of multiple sources into one source. He wrote a piece back in 1999 talking about the customer being the channel, informed shoppers now driving the sales process, and this will lead into our next piece. But the dynamic was changing, and this was 1999, right? And he's out of B school. I think he's a 26-year-old senior vice president at Epsilon. He's literally destroying the game. He works on weekends. Dude's an animal, right? And that was the narrative that formed the brand. But the narrative that now informs the brand, which means, how are we different from the people that we compete against in the marketplace? I think I try to say it this way simply. You have to be honest with yourself as an organization when you say this. But does your database support the growth of your business? Period. Without going off into this, harrowing straits of platitudes and anecdotes. But when you say that your database supports your business, you don't ever run out of leads. You anticipate churn. Your financials are matching up and being forecasted analytically, proactively. You're mitigating for multicollinearity, right? Not all tall people, right, have big feet. Not all morbidly obese people have bad health.
Stop and why don't you quickly explain what multicollinearity is?
So
because not everybody here has, not Jeff and I, but I mean, that could be interacting with this has a MIS degree.
Okay. So anybody who is, classically trained statistician, classically trained marketer at B school, let's say you went to Babson, you'll hear these terms. And what it is in marketing campaigns, especially maybe more than one channel. But what you're starting to look at is you're seeing commonality between campaign execution and then connection. It's a cable term. So when people start to buy, and we all speak this way actually, when we make jokes demographically, we say, hey, this neighborhood probably has people in it with good credit. But we also know that 75% of the federal tax, the individual IDs are not credit worthy. So we know that if we assume that an affluent neighborhood has good credit, we're making a false correlation. We can't assume that just because this is, wherever the nice part of your town is, Jeff, whatever the nice part of where you live is, but just because they live somewhere affluent doesn't mean they can afford that neighborhood. They might have been afforded that neighborhood. Here's the example I always like to give, right? Affluent or generationally wealthy families will sell their houses to their kids for $1 because there is no mortgage on it. They want to keep that money in the family. They understand the importance of equity as one of the primary sources of wealth. So again, I led with it, but it's just the fact that don't assume that because somebody's tall, they have big feet. Don't assume that because somebody is affluent, they have good credit. And that shows up in a bunch of campaigns. And if you have millions of customer records and you're now targeting based upon this flawed methodology, what you're going to see is that you're going to send an Amex card to somebody in Wellesley who has a credit score of 500. And that's kind of how you learn. Amex already knows that story, but a lot of the people who are in retail that have catalogs still, they learn that kind of painfully over time, but once they identify it, it can be addressed statistically and you can fix it in your campaigns.
Well, and that can be helped in one of two ways. You can either get smarter and you can put some thought into it, or you can just send more catalogs.
Yeah, now you sound like, I'm not going to say them by name, but yeah, those are the two approaches. They chose the send more catalog approach. But yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But that's the thing.
Breaking news, but spray and play is absolutely so ineffective. Everyone is doing it.
Yeah.
But it's okay. This is the thing. It is ineffective. It's flawed and it's horrendously ineffective. But there are some people who can afford to do it, right? There are some big, and the bigger you are, the more you can afford to do it in some ways. And when I look at
Macy's
for now,
I'm sorry.
They can afford to do it for now.
I agree. Yeah. But the thing is, they don't have to right now. It's easier to stay in their lane. And the thing about it is your lane becomes a beaten path, becomes a rut. It becomes a trench that you can't get out of after a while. And I think we're very clearly seeing that. But when you look at it and I think it's a short-sighted viewpoint, but when you look at it, you say, look, well, here's the cost of the campaign. The cost of the campaign was a penny a person, but the sale that is made possible by that penny a person is worth $1.50. Therefore, if we get a 1% hit rate, we've made 50% return on our investment. That's real math. I mean, those numbers aren't real, but it scales. That is the real economy that a lot of these companies are dealing with. And that is fine for right now. But the thing is, as there is more data, as there are more catalogs being sent out, so to speak, now all of a sudden, how do you make sure that one person out of 100, if one person out of 100 is going to get and buy something from a catalog and you're the only catalog out there, that's fine. Your return on investment prospects look really, really good. But when there's 1,000 catalogs out there, now you're scaling in the absolute wrong direction. And that's where this idea of, well, let's just be efficient. Let's just send as much stuff out there as possible so that if somebody bites, it's a win. And it's, with technology, it's become cheaper and cheaper to get more and more data out there. Well, now it's, what did you say, 250 quintillion bytes of data? Give me a break. Every single day. That is just an enormity that we can't even comprehend. We had to put our heads together early and figure out what a quintillion was, right? Like million, billion. I mean, we had to go through it. That is only going to go up. And so what I think marketers and salespeople need to do is really think about who they're trying to target and are they trying to reach those targets in the best way, in the most effective way, not necessarily the one that is efficient right now, because those two lines are going to cross at some point.
So that's a great point. Let me just say one thing to that specifically, Jeff, because that trend is changing, right? Because marketers, we can't get away with the vanity metrics anymore, right? I don't have to rattle off all the brands, but the CEOs of the major retail brands are now saying, hey, agencies, I do want to actually know if you can give me visibility down to the household level. No, agencies, I do actually really want to know on a granular level if you've mitigated 4 impressions on social, because I know that's BS. So and this is the challenge. The marketer is getting smarter because the marketer, and this applies to sales, is doing more work, right? So the season sale, I did 400 presentations one year. I had to be better at pitching that product at the end of that year well, maybe statistically, than I was when I started. But the difference, right? There's a level of intimacy that comes with experience and exposure. And we can't clone that or train that into people. We really can't. It's like, how did you stop yourself from bleeding when you didn't have a Band-Aid? Can't coach that. Like, you had to walk through that and fall through that. So what's happening right now is boards, executive teams, specifically the CFO is saying, hey, we're going to get laser focused on attribution. We have online data, we're going to figure it out. And then iteration 2, we're going to merge online with offline data, right? Iteration 3, we're going to inform marketing spend because we've merged online and offline data. And we should be able to get smarter. But to your point, Jeff, there are organizations that can survive despite that, but here's where they're going to run into a challenge or bump into a challenge. If they don't meet the customer where they are, the dropout rate is basically you're not a part of the consideration set. And before, it used to be you're not a part of the consideration set for this campaign. But now when they drop out, they're done. So let me just put a ball on it. And let me say somebody from Google said this, so now it's church and it's science. But it is church and it is science. And the gentleman, I can't remember his title, but he's from Google. And he says, if all of your tests are rocking, right? If all of your testing, your beta test, A/B testing is rocking out, you're not testing aggressively enough. So he didn't say spray and pray more. He was just saying, let's segment that audience appropriately. Let's arrest some of that audience. But let's also test, creative, messaging, timing, etc. There's 100 things you can test on by channel. And let's be doing that all the time, because we have to do 3 things as an organization to survive in this current marketplace. We have to create an environment of continuous learning. That's a fact. Can't get away from that. And we only learn when we campaign. The closer we get to that customer, the more factual we can speak, the more intimately we can talk about that customer. So we want to create an environment of continuous learning. That's the most important part, right? The second part is you want to have your strategy be informed by analytics, right? So you don't want to just buy tools for the sake of buying tools. You need to have your strategy informed by analytics, because that's going to inform your marketing spend. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to pass the bus tests when everybody's favorite, friend, the CFO, walks into their office. And then the last part really, and this is, again, these things can't happen by themselves. How do we compete? Period. If you're not doing those other 2 things, you are not competing in this current marketplace. What's the new big buy? Amazon is going to buy, think about this, BJ's. Think about how painful BJ's is. BJ has one competitor. If I can pick up my Amazon products at a BJ's location, what is Costco going to do, right? And this is the problem. It was a Jet. There's one other Amazon. Yeah. We don't even know who they are. I think it's Jet.
Yeah, it's owned by Walmart.
Amazon's going to buy BJ's because that's just boss stuff. Costco, what are you doing that next week in your campaign? Like, what are you going to do? We all know what they're going to do. Nothing.
But here's the thing. Amazon's buying BJ's not to physically buy a brick and mortar store.
Right. So fulfillment center.
For the data.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're buying it. That's why we want I want my mom's recipe to something. Right. It's the data that went into it, so I can make it for my kids. So I can segment.
What's it called? That spaghetti thing? Say it. I say it wrong. Your mom's favorite dish.
The turkey sketty I made.
Yeah. That's the one, right?
That's honestly my Achilles heel. I love that. And with Parmesan, I just am obsessed. I can't eat it.
We'll post the recipe in the show notes.
Just saying, it sounds. Your mom knows what she's doing. That's all I'm saying. Because we see described, I go, "Is this what we having?" Okay, hold on, Jeff. Let me do this one right here. Okay, you know how I feel.
But I digress. I digress from Amal's fashion and my Olympian look here. Is really, it's not. I know you kept saying the CFO and the CMO, right? Well,
CFO.
Yes, obviously financial and you have to have money to work and turn on the lights and do that ass shit, right? But it's actually really the CMO and the CIO are now closer in what they look and feel like, right? There's a lot of ambiguity there because marketing decisions in many ways now are technology decisions and vice versa.
Right, yeah, agree.
But you can't do anything with that unless you actually understand the data, know how to house the data. I know you're talking about IBM. I don't know if you house it on IBM servers, right? But it's almost like a one-stop shop with IBM because it's like,
they are. Yeah, they're good. They're good.
And then if you wanted to stream something because you deal with cable and retail, you could do it on Ustream, which is an IBM company.
Right. The Universal Business Exchange is the overarching platform.
Exactly. Right. So it's like they have survived digital Darwinism because they have made very smart choices to amplify their business in ways that were not the same for some of their competitors, right? And so now those are allowing them to survive, where then their core business has had, more of a struggle. Cloud wasn't around when IBM originally started as a server storage business. I mean, these are more complex things. So somebody that is a marketer, like when I realized Amahl had an MIS degree, I asked why. And it's a story you don't really tell the story, but basically, and keep me honest here, Amahl, it was that when you were in college, you did an internship, and you just saw then that there was a need not only to know business, but you had to understand the technology behind it that would be fueling it.
Yeah, I did help desk for a while, and that was enjoyable. There's nothing better than an executive not knowing how to use a printer or a fax machine or any kind of technology to just see how human we all are. Again, go to a law firm and ask that lawyer to scan something to an email address. They'll write a lot of words on paper. So we all, and this was my senior thesis to get out of there. And I said basically all businesses limp, right? And IT is that crutch or that brace. Right. And this is a shift, right, Jeff? You talked about this indirectly, but directly. Before, a company say, look at our data centers, Thomson Reuters, a little bit of shade, right? Are you a data center company, right? Are you a world-class data center, IT infrastructure? And they have a consulting business, and they do intellectual property, so some of that's true. But, insert any company that you're talking about. Are you a world-class help desk, or are you a technology company? And as soon as we shifted, and this was your point about on-prem versus off-prem, I wanted it in my building because I could see it, right? I wanted it in my building because I'm a landlord and I have real estate. I wanted it in my building, right? Microsoft, Google, Oracle, because I want to control the supply chain. I want to be in charge of the cost of my business and its scale. Amazon Cloud comes out, kicks everybody's butt. Rackspace comes out, kicks everybody's butt. But what they start to say is there's certain mission critical applications that have to be on site, and there's other non-critical applications that we can afford to have in cloud, public, private, what have you. That's almost synonymous. So let's fast forward to your point about marketers. The goal in technology, and this is how it's inverted, to be technical, to be a technological user, I had to be sophisticated back in the day. I had to have my certifications. I had to understand network technology. I had to understand the visualization layer. I had to understand user interface, blah, 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 blah. Right now, I need a Facebook, a Twitter, or a video game interface for marketers to tell a story based upon the data to inform spend, to inform revenue, what have you. So there's 8,000 things I can buy now. I'm not going to get certified in all of them. I do want to aggregate some of them. I do want to shop some of that out, and I have to because I don't have time. If I'm spending my entire month going to markets, I don't have time in the next month to learn from the previous campaign to inform the next. And that's really, all of that is kind of where we are today.
Shannon?
As quickly as I could say it.
Shannon, I've got one more question for you.
Yes.
Yes.
You know why 6 was afraid of 7?
I was horrible at math. I only got A+ all through school.
Because 7, 8, 9.
I'm hungry.
Bad jokes and mad knowledge being dropped next time. Thanks for being with us here. We'll see you again later.